Let's start with Bill Belichick versus Sonny Dykes. UNC against TCU. Boy, Dublin, Ireland. Look, I want to take the over in this game, but I can't do that. When you're going across oceans, you can't be taking overs, you know. But I look at this game, CD, UNC got a lot of slack for being the bad team that they were last year. But we've talked about it, right? We previewed them. There are some spots in their roster that we feel like have improved. Their offensive line, as the season went on last year, significantly improved. And TCU, they're a pretty solid roster, but they got their question marks as well, including at the quarterback position, who might be pretty good. But we're gonna get into that. CD TCU is favored by 7.5 points. Where are we at with this one for the first game that we get to preview in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I have to be on TCU here, and it's not just because of what happened last year. Last year, obviously, it was Chapel Bill. It was week one. It was a sold out crowd, big time Monday night, I believe. I remember that vividly because we were in the middle of recording our week two previews, kind of during that game, and I was kind of watching it as it was going on and checking it in between,
It was
and
bad.
it was bad. And well, we started like midway through, I think, the first quarter, and at that point, it was still a game, and you had what was almost like you couldn't script it any better. Was the first drive of the game, and North Carolina and Gio Lopez just shreds TCU, and I was like, holy! I think everyone was like, Chapel Bill, let's fucking go! He's here. Excuse my language, but and then obviously it just went downhill in ways that North Carolina fans could never imagine. We previewed North Carolina, and I really think this team will get a lot better. And obviously, you hit rock bottom. The only way to go is up. But their schedule is brutal. And that starts with this game in week zero here. Your over under is 4.5. You got 2 bye weeks in September. You're working in a quarterback coming off a big time PCL tear in Billy Edwards, who gets the nod. And you got a TCU team that quietly was a really good football team last year, right? This was a team that they won 8 games in the regular season. They won 9. They beat a good USC team in the bowl game. Ken Seals had his magic and his stamp on his Horned Frog career. But I'm gonna be on TCU here. I think I'm really excited to see. I know I'm really excited to see the quarterback. They're breaking him in, Jaden Craig. That's the Harvard transfer. This guy's legit here. He's not your typical FCS transfer coming up a level where maybe he's undersized and maybe he's a little bit frisky. This guy's 6'3", 230 pounds. He can throw the ball. He was a Walter Payton finalist last year, which is the FCS version of the Heisman Trophy. He was a legit 4 star in the portal. Like this was a guy that had options, and he's got real talent. And I am excited to see TCU has done a fantastic job developing quarterbacks as it has been under, excuse me, with this regime here in Sunny Dykes. So I'm gonna be on TCU minus 7.5. That's what my pick will be. Am I crazy to do that?
No, I think I'm going to be right there with you. But to say that, North Carolina doesn't have anything going for them is, I think, a little bit misleading. Like I said, I think the biggest thing that we saw last year, aside from just absolutely horrendous play across the board, was just the improvement on the offensive line from week 1 to week 14. Like it was actually serviceable. Like you were putting together legitimate drives late in the season. And we think you got a pretty big upgrade at quarterback. Probably both of your quarterbacks, right? Miles O'Neill was the other guy. That was Bobby Petrino recruit at Texas A&M. Played well as a backup there. Gets a lot of buzz. Got a live arm. Literally, like last week, was getting buzz to potentially be the starter before Billy Edwards was actually announced. So, yeah, I think you're going to have solid quarterback play, better quarterback play. I think the running back room is sufficient enough. The offensive line is going to get better. It has to be better, right? That week one. Uh, so I think you're going to see some fight from UNC, at least offensively. I think you're going to see like legitimate movement there. Bobby Petrino, like, dude, when has he ever had a bad offense? Like ever, even like when he is missing talent or uh, even when he has like the talent, there's a talent mismatch. When he is the OC, it really doesn't matter. He just doesn't. He does what he does. Okay. And you got a good defensive staff there with Bill Belichick. Not that North Carolina's defense is defense was great last year by any stretch of the imagination, but it could be interesting. Like I could see a scenario in which this game maybe is a little bit closer at halftime than people are anticipating. But I think I'm with you on TCU. Um, I mean, you have a lot of pieces from what you had last year, which is good. You have continuity. It felt like the staff didn't really need to go into the portal to get a ton of guys. It feels like they have what they needed, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then Jaden Craig is right, the big question mark at quarterback. Very productive at Harvard, phenomenal there, if you will. Uh, and quite frankly, this is a guy that I think a lot of other staffs rely on. NFL scouts are getting their eyeballs on him as well. He's an experienced guy. He's old. And that is like, kind of a theme for this TCU offense. It's a lot of experience. I should say they're very old, right? They're guys that have been in that program for several years now. You only got a few transfers on that side of the ball, including Jaden Craig. I'm very excited to see this TCU team. And I think like with the Big 12, the way that it is, you have Texas Tech, right? And then you have BYU. And then you have like a slew of other teams that are just grabbing and vying for a potential chance to make the Big 12 championship game. That includes Arizona, that's Utah, and then TCU is right in that mix, man. So I'm really excited. I think this game is it's not gonna tell us everything. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of growth between these teams from week 0 to week 7, week 10, whatever. But I think it's gonna tell us quite a bit. So I'm really, really excited for this one.
Yeah, and you almost get to go a little bit of strength on strength, I think, with UNC and what Bobby Petrino is describing a power running game. And we think an continually improved offensive line and a good running back room that UNC has. And a really fun tight end room, too. You have to throw them in there with the blocking versatility that they have versus the defensive line that TCU's returning. And just about everyone is coming back. And it should be a good group. Now, TCU on their end, they're going to have to replace a couple of stars on both sides of the ball. Eric McAllister was a stud, was an absolute stud. TCU fans understand that, right? I don't think he got enough praise and love all throughout college football for his whole career, back at Boise State too. He was incredible. And then on defensively, you're losing Caleb Elamzor as well as Bud Clark in the secondary. So it's not like this TCU team.
Jacob Fields, right, who was your big time get in the portal, dismissed from the team at safety. So, yeah.
Yeah, even lacking depth there too. So it's not going to be easy. And like you said, it's just tough going overseas. You just never know how it'll be. That's why I'm not going to be able to make a play on TCU. I like to think they're going to win and probably cover. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if we see something similar. I'm not saying the seasons are destined like that was a couple of years ago, but Georgia Tech and Florida State, if you remember that, right? It was just a fascinating game and almost like played into the strength of the underdog, which UNC is in here. So who knows here? Obviously, both teams had opposite seasons last year. Both teams played each other, and TCU clobbered them. But again, a fantastic rematch opportunity for the college football to get broadcasts all throughout Europe and stuff like that. And it's obviously growing the game and all that for the good stuff that comes with this. But should be a fantastic way to open up the 2026 college football season.
Also, too, one more thing that I want to mention. Dublin has been very kind to physical football teams. And let's be very clear, North Carolina was not classified as a physical football team a year ago. Okay. But you look at some of what they've invested in the portal on the offensive line, and you're like, oh, there's some like real size here on the offensive line. So that aspect of it could get interesting. And like if you see a physical UNC football team this week 0, sure, it might not be enough to win this football game, but that would give me a lot of confidence for what their schedule looks like in the ACC moving forward. Right? Because it felt like last year, early on in the season, they were just getting mauled and out physical and penalties. I mean, everything was bad, right? So if you give me something here in week 0 that says, okay, this UNC team might be a physical football team, I think that could give, like we believe TCU is going to give Big 12 teams a lot of problems. Who knows what North Carolina what kind of problems they're going to be giving other teams in the ACC. this upcoming season.